So, handful of health. I introduced it to you in the last session. But before we go there, what I want to talk to you about is the tri-brain. And that's also a hand analogy, but I think it's really good. So this was from Dan Siegel. And what he talks about is if this is our frontal cortex, which is our thinking, language, empathy brain, the planning and the inhibition of impulses brain, and this is our emotional brain, which is the feelings, motivation, interaction, bonding, and memory, hippocampus. And this is the brainstem or the reptilian brain, which is where safety is the biggest concern, right? So let's do it again. It's the human brain, the mammalian brain, reptilian brain, other way, cortex attaching to others, connection. This is more the rewards, the satisfaction, and the avoiding harm and safety. So that's our brain. And when hitting danger, or our brain, the neocortex just flips. And that is when no amount of logic is going to come in and tell us what we need to do. So in order to bring that down, there are other strategies we can do, but and that is going through the sensory or cortex also. So there are a lot of strategies we can bring this brain down. But for now, we're going to talk about the handful of health. Another way of explaining this flipping of the hand is another analogy we use is like the elephant and the rider. So the rider is the cortex and the elephant is the emotional brain. So when the elephant gets mad and roars, the rider is right out off the back of the elephant. So keeping that elephant in that emotional calm state is where we need to be. So I'm going to go a little nerdy over here and talk to you a little bit about the nervous system. So we have the brain, and the brain has two main parts, the voluntary and the autonomic. This is 101 brain. So the voluntary is your hands and your the spine and the ability to move voluntarily. So I can snap my fingers, I can touch my head. That's all in the voluntary system. We're not talking about that much today. But the autonomic nervous system is divided into para and parasympathetic and sympathetic. And I don't want you to get caught up on that. So we'll change it to peace and stress. And the other one that goes into para is passive, which we heard in the Titanic model, where the one level was the passive and the three was where we come into that self-care pace. But the level two in the Titanic is that fight flight, which is what we are kind of breaking out a little bit more. So that's the sympathetic nervous system. So how do we understand that a little better? So there's a lion in our life. The lion comes in the door. What are we going to do? We're going to run, or we're going to fight this lion. Well, guess what? We are living in a world where we don't see lions per se, but they're lions that come in our lives in different shapes and forms. Bullying is a form of a lion in our life. Workplace bullying, where whatever you are trying to do is suppressed, you're not heard. That's a form of workplace bullying. Another form of that stress is when you attack yourself in self-judgment, self-doubt, self-criticism. That's the lion in our lives we are talking about. So the handful of health is, I'm not the best artist as far as the hand is concerned. So if this is our hand, and this is supposed to be the little finger, a little chubby, but it's okay. Okay. Did we get 5 fingers? Okay, that's the thumb. This is the little finger. This is my hand. So the little finger is the breath, right? So you guys remember what it was? The breath, laughter, water, peeing, eating, pooping, meaningful movement, sleep, your attitude of gratitude, and relationships. And then this is ask for help, right? And you have a handout for that, but we're going to talk about each one individually. Let's go back to that stress response and the sympathetic and parasympathetic response. So when the lion comes in our life, what is our physiological response that we go through, right? The first thing that happens is our pupils dilate. Our breathing goes really rapid. Our throat gets dry. Our heart rate goes really fast. Our liver is producing more glucose. All the blood is in your arms and your legs. Digestion stops, right? Reproductive organs go on, hold. And what are we getting ready for? Fighting and flighting, right? So that response is very critical because that's a very physiological response, and the stress hormones are kind of ramped up in that state. So, but what happens is the breathing is the key component that can toggle you from that stress response to the peace response immediately. Because it takes you, the Titanic model, it takes you from that drowning place to above the water. So see how it's all tying in? So that breathing is very, very key and is very important. So let's take a moment and take a deep breath. So when you are breathing, the emphasis is not as much on the breath in, but the breath out. So let's work on that. Let's just take a normal breath in and just work on breathing it out a little bit longer. Do it again. Let's try something else. A stressful breath is either breathing really fast or holding your breath. And you can choose whichever one you would like. But I'm going to go with the rapid breath. And see what happens. See the response that happens to your body. It's the complete sympathetic response. Or you hold your breath and see what that does. And that's, again, in the Titanic world, you're still underwater, right? So those are the things that happen when we go under stress, is either we start breathing really rapidly or we're holding our breath. So the more you pay attention to the breath, it tells you, it's a GPS that tells you whether you are in stress or you're not. So belly breathing is what we teach our patients. So I'm going to teach it to you because I know you're not my patients, but belly breathing is a great way to calm yourself down. So what I say is you visualize a tube in your chest and a balloon in your belly. So when you breathe, instead of expanding your chest, you are just working on your belly. So your belly goes out, then you breathe in, and your belly goes down when you breathe out. The diaphragm sits right under your ribs. It goes down when you breathe in, and it goes up when you breathe out. And then comes the mindful breathing, that being present in the moment while you're taking breaths. And there's a whole area of mindfulness which we strongly encourage you. There are different apps. There's Headspace, there's Calm, there's Insight Timer, there's Mindfulness Coach. Please get one and start working on them. Breathing also encourages releases endorphins in our system. And laughter is internal jogging. We'll be repeating that a couple of times. So anytime you get a chance to laugh, please take full advantage of that. And here, let's try it. There you go. Okay, let's go. So there's your breathing, there's your laughter. Water. Now the research on water is all over the place. How much water should we drink? I was very interested in that topic for a very long time. It goes anywhere from 64 ounces to, based on your body weight, to it's all over the place. So we cannot make specific recommendations, but general guideline is around 64 ounces of water, or half your body weight in ounces. So for example, if you weigh 100 pounds, you drink 50 ounces of water. So check with your doctor before you follow that formula, but that's the intake part. But what I find most helpful is the output. You look at your pee color. I shared this with a couple of my friends in population health group, and they have created this whole pee color chart and put it in bathrooms in the hospitals and schools. So I think it's a great way to just look when you're peeing what color my pee is, and that tells you whether you are hydrated or not. I'm going to give you an example of my daughter. We had so finally, I have young adults as kids, and my husband had changed the toilet. They put those blue things in the toilet. When you flush it, the water turns out blue, and she was very upset. She said, "What, Dad? Why did he do that? Because now I can't tell if I'm well hydrated or not." So just kind of look at your pee color, and it'll tell you whether you're having enough water in your system or not. But it's a great way to on health. Especially when you're studying, working, driving, or any physical activity, and your body produces water also. There's a lot of water in fruits and vegetables and other things we eat. Coffee can dehydrate you, so if you're drinking a lot of coffee, then you need to compensate it with water. And caffeine is in a lot of things. Food, we're not going to go a lot into food, but food is so important with pain, and it is the second gut, and we're going to talk a little bit more later. But eat more food. I mean, check with your nutritionist about what would be the, what you need. But in general rule of thumb, eat more fruits and vegetables and less canned food and less junk food, and not that kind of color, but more of the natural colors is what we are more interested in. And the other part is, look at your poop. If your poop looks very hard, or it's in pebble shape, or it's got cracks in the poop, you're not getting enough water. If it looks like a sausage or banana, or and it's smooth, you are in a good balance. If it's too mushy, you're not getting enough fiber. Check with your GI doctor if you have GI issues, please. Don't just take my word. But most people, if we go with that, we're going to be okay. In preventive health, we'll be okay. Movement, right? That's our bread and butter. That's all we do is movement. Getting up, take movement snacks. Movement is giving you the drug cabinet in the brain, which is our next lesson, is you are getting natural morphine by movement. And it's free. And it's available openly, right? So just doing a 30-second sit to stand from a chair, great way to get movement. Have your kids go to the floor and stand up, kneeling to standing, jumping jacks, dancing to music. Do the YMCA. Jogging in place when waiting in line or for the microwave. The general recommendations for movement is 150 to 300 minutes of moderate intensity exercise. But it doesn't have to be done all at once. We can break it down. A minute here, a minute there. Before you know, if you have a job that's very sedentary, go to the furthest bathroom that you can find. Just move it. That's all it is. Just move it. And again, as we talk, meaningful movement, that things that you enjoy doing. And sometimes you may not enjoy, exercising or whatever the situation may be, but find a way to move. If you don't like to exercise, find a friend who you can go walk with, so you're chatting while you're walking. So cannot emphasize enough on movement. And anyway, let's move on. Sleep. This is again a picture art from my patient on how much pain can affect your sleep. But after waking up in the morning, could you fall asleep at 10 a.m. or 10 or 11 a.m.? And if your answer is yes, or can you function optimally without caffeine before noon? And your answer is no. So either your quality or your quantity of sleep might be compromised, or it might just be that, you're sleeping well and you just need caffeine. But sleep is a big part of health, and we are sleep deprived. Our community is sleep deprived. There's no magic numbers. Everybody needs a different amount of sleep. Young adults, 18 to 25 years, need 7 to 9 hours of sleep. 14 to 17 years need at 8 to 10 hours of sleep. So let's talk a little bit about physiology of sleep. Okay, so what we have is there are two processes that are happening. One is the circadian rhythm, which is like a marching band, just comes on and goes off, comes on and goes off. We have circadian rhythms in our body for food. We have it for sleep, for different functions. So it just kind of comes on and goes off. And then what we have is the sleep pressure. So when you wake up, the sleep pressure just starts rising and it goes to a crescendo. And so when sleep pressure gets to an optimal level, that's when you fall asleep. So, and then the sleep pressure drops, and then the same thing starts all over again. And then again, when it drops, that's what it happens. So this is a very important process, is the circadian rhythm and sleep pressure. They have to align in order for us to fall asleep. Briefly on sleep pressure and caffeine. Caffeine locks into the receptors of adenosine. The adenosine receptors, they act as a masking agent. So caffeine binds with adenosine by latching onto the adenosine receptors, and it masks it. Now this is an important concept. I know it's a little bit more technical, but it's important to understand that your sleep pressure gets compromised when you start drinking so much caffeine. And caffeine is also the most widely used psychoactive stimulant that's out there, and caffeine peaks at 30 minutes, and its half-life is 50% removal of the drug concentration at 5 to 8 hours. So if you're drinking caffeine at 3 o'clock, you might have difficulty falling asleep. Now, if you don't have a problem sleeping and you like to drink an espresso at night, please do. There's no stopping you. But if you are having difficulty, then it might be something to look into. The other thing to keep in mind is the circadian rhythm for adolescents. For the kids, it moves. And the circadian rhythm for older people also moves. So kids cannot fall asleep. Teenagers cannot fall asleep at the regular time adults do, because their circadian rhythm has moved. So their sleep pressure has to align at a different time. So physiologically, they cannot sleep. Drowsy driving is a very big problem because of the circadian rhythm moving. For the teenagers, physiologically, they're not able to sleep. And they have to wake up early to get to school, right? So after approximately 18 hours of being awake, the effects of reaction time, vigilance, multitasking, and hand-eye coordination are comparable to having a blood alcohol level of 0.05%. After 20 hours of being awake, drowsy drivers are impaired on a level equitable to 0.08% of blood alcohol, which is the legal limit, right? At 24 hours awake, it's equivalent to a blood alcohol of 0.1%. So please keep that in mind. Drowsy driving is a very big problem right now in the US, and especially with the teenagers. 70% of teenagers are currently sleep deprived. The American Association of Pediatrics recommends that school starts at 8:30 or later for all middle school and high school. Not getting enough sleep each night is associated with increase in injuries, hypertension, obesity, depression, especially for teens who may experience increased risk of self-harm and suicidal thoughts. The American Association of Pediatrics. Sleep is critical for our kids, and we need to do whatever we need to do to make that happen. So during the day, the learning that happens is like it goes on a USB drive, and at night, when you go to sleep, it goes from the USB drive to the hard drive, and that's when the hard drive organizes your whatever has happened through your emotional brain, learning brain, as well as your reptilian brain. But there are companies like Google, Nike, Zappos, Cisco, Procter & Gamble, Capital One, and Ben & Jerry's. They have their sleeping pods. They have realized that, they have their people work so many hours. They have sleeping pods that the employees can go and take a nap or rest if they need to. So that was quite a bit on sleep, but I think sleep is very important and it's not discussed enough. The next one we're going to talk a little bit about is gratitude. Gratitude is the research from gratitude coming out is significant right now. It is derived from the Latin root word gratia, meaning grace, graciousness, or gratefulness. All derivatives from this Latin root have to do with kindness, generousness, gifts, the beauty of giving and receiving, or getting something for nothing. That is the big thing that I like about gratitude, is because there's so much to be grateful for. And research has shown that gratitude is a pleasure state and is linked with positive emotions, including contentment, happiness, pride, hope. So there's some research for you to look up if you wanted to. It also has a benefit for social relationships. Intentionally practiced or unexpectedly provoked, gratitude improves relationships. It increases the feelings of social inclusion and closeness, and it can reduce mental illness. Improves life satisfaction and other health resiliency issues. Gratitude also improves sleep. So my recommendation in that is 3 gratitudes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You can pick any 3 things you're grateful for. I'll tell you what mine are. I wake up in the morning. I am very grateful to have a warm blanket on me. That's my first gratitude. Second gratitude is I am grateful that I can get up from my bed without help. As a physical therapist, we don't take these things for granted. And I'm always thankful that I can do that by myself. And the third gratitude I have when I stand up, I look out my window and I have a beautiful yard, and I am grateful for the nature that is in my life. You can pick your 3 and it can be the same gratitude. Some days I'm grateful for a lot of things, and other days that's all I got. But that's my routine practice of gratitude. So relationships. Our relationship with parents, our kids, our friends, our teachers and peers can slowly chip away or add to the safety and dangers of our life. So if you look at relationships in a form of a weighing scale. So let's do a weighing scale, and This is one part of the weighing scale, and this is the other. When the danger is heavier than our safety, when danger is greater than safety, that equals pain. And it's very subtle, but they add on. So be mindful of the relationships that are coming in your life and what you're talking about your relationships and how that is affecting your physical health, because they are all contributors to your health. And last but not the least is ask for help, which is the hardest thing to do. This is a great handout for you to use as much or as little as you would like. And here are some great videos to support what we have talked about. Thank you.